Avery, whose show is this? And we're live. Welcome everybody here to the Lakers Lounge Podcast. I'm Anthony Irwin, joined on this fine, well, it isn't really fine, this particularly shitty Tuesday night by you guys. Raj is still out, and I am going to be handling this one solo. On this episode, we'll be talking about the Lakers getting their butts kicked by the Joel Embiid and Paul George-less 76ers in Philly. Second night of a back-to-back, which you have to factor in. Anthony Davis did exit early, which you also have to factor in. But under almost no circumstances should the Lakers lose, or any circumstances should the Lakers lose the way that they lost to the Philadelphia 76ers. So we'll talk about this game, a couple notes from it, and then we will go ahead and I literally hit submit as this last game wrapped up. So we will go ahead and I'm not going to give the full piece away, but we will talk about a trade rumor that I haven't seen much about recently, and I didn't write about the last chance I did. And I'll give the reasons why and discuss again that trade rumor here in a bit. So, familiar name that we'll be talking about. Let's go ahead though and start with the game, which was pretty embarrassing for the vast majority of it. Just one of the more listless games the Lakers have played this season. So you knew coming into this one that Tyrese Maxey was going to be the whole assignment, right? You knew that it was going to be like the only chance that the Sixers had was Maxey going off and keeping them in a game, giving them, some spirit, and then the rest of that kind of bleep it roster getting after it and outplaying the Lakers. And that's exactly what we saw. Tyrese Maxey played 36 minutes, went 15 of 26 from the field, 4 of 11 from three-point range, 9 of 9 from the free throw line, scored 43 points, 3 boards, a couple assists, a couple of steals, was a game high plus 20 in this one. Just absolutely dominant effort from him. I thought it was really clear, with Gabe Vincent out, he is nursing a sore knee, and with Jared Vanderbilt out on the second night of a back-to-back, that you would get a, you would need to basically mirror Max's minutes with Tyrese Maxey. We didn't get that. At one point, Max subbed out and like early in the first quarter. So Rui subbed out first. The Lakers were up by quite a bit. Rui subbed out. I thought it was a quick sub. Dorian came in, and the Lakers played about neutral there. And I thought, sometimes JJ will do this thing where he just gets really sub happy. Like one thing coaches, who have been in the NBA for a long time are actually really good at is making sure that they kind of abide certain rules and abide certain rotations almost no matter who is in or out, of any given game. And JJ, I think, is still very much learning that. In this one, I thought he got really sub happy in the first quarter. And then now I'm not blaming him, blaming the guy that I'm about to mention specifically, but I thought things really, shit really hit the fan when Bronny came in. The thinking there, according to JJ, is that he thought that Bronny would go in there and offer some life and some spirit to the game. I didn't think the Lakers needed spirit early on in this one. I think it's pretty clear that, against the broken 76ers, JJ thought that he could get Bronny some kind of rotation minutes against NBA players. The Lakers were kind of like taking it to the Sixers early in this one. Sixers had already called one of those frustration timeouts. The Lakers had kept up that intensity on the other side of that timeout. And then Bronny went in there. And again, I'm not blaming him specifically, but I just thought it was, he's not an NBA player. Like, I'll talk about Bronny here in a second specifically. But anyway, Bronny subs in, really, really struggles. He's not even looking at the basket anymore, really. And when he does, it doesn't look very confident. He looks like he's being like blackmailed into shooting. Bronny finished the night 15 minutes, 0 of 5 from the field, 0 of 3 from 3-point range. Did have a few rebounds, did have an assist, turned the ball over 3 times, and was just like, he's not an NBA player. Like he looked like a not NBA player would look out there, even against a broken Sixers team. Part of the thinking there is that Shake Milton is bad and Gabe Vincent is out. So I think JJ was hoping that Bronny would be able to be a more athletic option defensively on the perimeter. Instead, Bronny looked clearly shaken when it came to bringing the ball up the court. Turned the ball over on one instance because I don't think Anthony Davis was expecting to get the ball there. I think he thought Bronny was capable of getting the ball up the court. And then Maxey really kind of got it going against Bronny. Maxey is a like 99th percentile scorer in the NBA, and Bronny was left on an island oftentimes against him. I think Bronny had like a block/strip on Maxey, and then maybe Maxey missed another jumper outside of that, but he really got it going against Bronny there. And I don't think Bronny is the reason they lost this game. The collective lack of effort and energy from the Lakers, and also like, our boy Kranjus has also been charting this, but they played basically straight up pickup basketball from like midway through the second quarter on through the rest of the game. Just a really disorganized approach from the Lakers on both sides. We saw more of that zone that JJ Redick kind of throws out there sometimes if he's really, searching for things. And it was a ass kicking. Like, also credit to the Sixers. They were really physical with the Lakers tonight. Like, essentially, there are a couple ways of being physical in basketball where you can be physical every second of every game and you'll be rewarded for that physicality. The Lakers weren't allowed to run into screens or even, get set up for screens. They were being hand checked all game. It was a very physical approach to this game from the very onset of it, from the 76ers. And then like the physicality that the Lakers were showing is like the kind of bumps that happen when you're playing catch up. And the Lakers were in foul trouble for basically the entirety of the game. And a lot of that had to do with like, they're being pushed and shoved and held on one end of the court, and they think, well, we can do that. But the way that the Lakers were doing it was, it stuck out when, because there are moments where they aren't doing it, and then there are moments when they are. Whereas with the Sixers, they were always physical. They were always holding. They were always bumping. And I think that really affected what the Lakers were trying to do offensively. Nobody played well tonight. Like, not a single person. We could look at LeBron's 31 points, 9 assists and 8 rebounds, and that looks nice and all. But he shot 1 of 4 from 3-point range and had 8 turnovers in the game. He was a -11, the worst of the starters. You could look at, nobody played well, not a single person. Because the next closest guy is like Austin Reeves and Rui, tied for 13 points apiece. Neither of them, really were all that impactful when they were scoring. Max Christie only played 22 minutes in this one. Um, Only had the one foul. So I didn't understand that. Also weird going back to the Bronny thing. He came in before Dalton Connect, and there's no world in which that should happen ever. Especially if the excuse or the reason for it is, well, we looked like we needed more spirit out there, whatever the phrase was for JJ. They didn't need that then. They needed perimeter defense, and I could understand going to him for the perimeter defense. But if Bronny can't bring the ball up the court, then you may as well go with Cam Reeves and then try to extend Austin and LeBron minutes. The other thing too that JJ has been doing, even when Gabe is either in or out of the rotation, or is available or not available, um, the Lakers have been like running lineups out there with LeBron and Reeves on the bench. You just like cannot do that. They are not good enough to do that. And those lineups, I would, go out and look and see what those combinations or what those lineups look like. They're probably pitiful. It's probably not good. Yeah, JJ has, he has his moments where he looks really good, and then he has his moments where he's just like, what? Like, huh? That doesn't make much sense. So, again, bad game here for the Lakers. It's the kind of thing that you say, like, all right, second night of a back-to-back. The Lakers haven't won on a January 28th in like 10 years, which I'd have to go find the stat again. So some voodoo going on there. And then also they are now 1-9 in those horrific city jerseys. I said this on Passport the other day. I said it when they were made. I said it when they were unveiled. I said it in games since then. But the Lakers playing basketball games without Lakers on their chest, if it just says Lake Show on your chest, that pisses off the basketball gods, man. You are messing with powers that you do not want to mess with. And the Lakers are now 1-9 in those atrocities. And those jerseys may have just gotten Anthony Davis hurt. So burn them. Burn them. Don't let them on the plane. Whatever extra ones that you have, give fans refunds for those jerseys. Get them like, try to make it so that we can come as close as we possibly can to those never having existed, because those jerseys are a crime against the sport. They're a crime against my eyes. They're a crime against Lakers culture, whatever is left of it. They should not have ever existed, and they for damn sure shouldn't continue to exist. All right. Let's talk about Anthony Davis. So AD went down after playing 10 minutes in this one. He went down in like the second quarter or so. We didn't see the play that he went down on. TNT was in charge of the game in this one. All they showed was AD walking to the locker room, and he was, holding that area kind of between his belly button and his waistline. So he's kind of holding his abdomen a little bit. Looked like he was in quite a bit of pain. Was considered questionable after that. And then coming out of halftime was very quickly considered out for the rest of the game. And it's going to be interesting here. The Lakers have 3 games between now and the trade deadline. If Anthony Davis misses all 3 of those, and then it looks like he might miss some time after that, really kind of curious how the front office, which I tend to think usually looks for reasons not to include first-round draft capital, if do anything at all. But if they get the sense that Anthony Davis is going to miss like a week or so, even, is that going to be enough reason for them to just be like, sorry guys, hard to invest in this team if you're not really sure when, if Anthony Davis is going to be available again. I could just see that being kind of the explanation. They also, by the way, like, especially if AD goes down, or if Gabe Vincent isn't able to make a return in the next few games, they will have played 0 games before the trade deadline this year, with even like their rotation not including Christian Wood. Like, take Christian Wood out of this, and they still may go into the trade deadline after making all that noise about, like, well, we would like to see the rotation play together before we make any big decisions about this roster. You can't treat it that way, because sometimes you don't get such a sample size and the team is still competitive enough to invest in it. So tough spot here for the Lakers here moving forward. Now, I guess LeBron said after the game that he thinks Anthony Davis will be okay. So hopefully LeBron is right. JJ said after the game that he had no update on AD. When I first saw that, my first thought was that maybe they might need to run like an MRI or further testing on AD's abdomen to see what exactly is going on there. Might just be also, the kind of little tweak that AD wakes up from tomorrow and he's either really, really sore or he feels fine. So, yeah, look, I've seen a lot of like victory lapping with Anthony Davis and his availability. He played 70 games last year. He's played 41 of the games that the Lakers have played so far this season. It's not the Anthony Data Davis that, we were worried about a couple seasons ago. And my guess is he's going to work his ass off to get back out there. He has been playing great lately. He found his organizational voice here with the Lakers. Like, I have no doubt whatsoever that if AD can get out there relatively soon, he will. So I hoping for the best here for Anthony Davis. But and if the Lakers front office, if Rob Pelinka and Kurt and Linda and Jeannie and Tim, if they all come together and land on the conclusion of, sorry everybody, just can't quite invest in these guys anymore, they're getting a little old, I would be pretty annoyed. I would be pretty tweaked. So hopefully that isn't the case. Hopefully we find out tomorrow or whenever we can next that AD is going to be fine, and that the front office is still looking to fulfill his request of going out and getting a center. Again, a little bit later, we'll be talking about Myles Turner. And I think if AD goes down, it makes even more sense for you to go out and get that guy, because like a tweaked abdomen isn't going to, affect the rest of Anthony Davis's season. So I think if you can go out there and you can get Myles Turner, as we'll talk about here in a bit, who can anchor your unit better than Jackson Hayes and Christian Coloco or Trey Jamison or whoever it is, like, go out and do it. I know it's probably going to cost a couple of picks. We'll talk about that in a bit, but this is this shouldn't be the excuse that I think the front office is going to try to claim it might be. The next topic here is for where this ranks for worst loss of the season. They've lost a couple times to Detroit, who looks better this year. So I don't think that is as embarrassing as it was or it might have been coming into the season. They have lost to the Mavs without Luka and Kyrie. They lost this one, right? Was a really bad loss. Like, again, as I've told you guys, now they are much better than 500. They are not like the definition of mediocrity as they once appeared to potentially be. So the highs have outnumbered the lows, but like the extent of the high and the extent of the low, right? I think are fairly similar, right? Like beating the piss out of the Boston Celtics is a really high, and then turning around and losing the way that they did to the Mavericks, where you weren't really competitive against them, losing the way that they did tonight, where they weren't competitive against Philly, who has been bad this year and also doesn't have Joel Embiid and Paul George. Like, that range is roughly similar. And, I think it does kind of come down to kind of a disrespect of competition on a nightly basis. And now, like, I know second night of a back to back, and it's easy to kind of look past this group, but that's where I think your leadership has to come in and be like, no, we can't look past this group. Tyrese Maxey specifically is like made in a lab to bleep us up. And he did, right? He absolutely killed the Lakers tonight. Not a single soul could stand in front of him and stay there. And on top of it, he was knocking down like step back 30 footers on the Lakers. It was an incredible performance from the Lakers. That like he was throwing haymakers and the Lakers were fighting back with like a weak throw pillow in terms of the punches that they were throwing back. So where this ranks for worst loss of the year, it's definitely top 5. And these are the kinds of games you're going to look back on at the end of the year and be like, if we could just have like one extra win, they'd have home court in the first round. God, if they could just have not played with their food or taken some of these guys a little bit more seriously, what the difference in with a couple of losses here and there would have been. In this West, man, every single one of these games really, really matter, especially the ones that are against opponents that you should be beating. And given the way that the Lakers have looked against better opponents this year, like you can't fumble away both sides of that equation. And this was a tough one to fumble away and look as listless as they did. All right, so the next topic here before I get to the comments is Myles Turner. Now, I wrote Friday about all of the centers that I thought were viable at the time, and I ranked them basically in terms of most likely to least. I think Nikola Vucevic was at the top of the list. Jonas Valanciunas was up next. Was it Robert Williams next after that? I forget. And then Walker Kessler was also on the list. And then you had a bunch of honorable mentions. One guy who went completely unmentioned there is Myles Turner. I explained this in the piece, why he wasn't on that list and why he is now a candidate now. I don't know how likely a candidate he is for the Lakers, but still, the Lakers have talked about him a ton internally, I'm told. So Turner is due to be a free agent at the end of this season. The Pacers are going to have to start making some financial decisions. And they already paid Halliburton. They've extended a couple of their other guys. Pascal Siakam isn't cheap either. And one potential cost-cutting decision that the Sixers or the Pacers could make here is seeing if you could get somebody to play center for you who isn't as expensive as Turner is going to be. His next contract, I think, probably starts at like 30-ish million and then kind of goes up from there, I would imagine, as far as like what he'll likely sign for. And, for the Pacers, being a small market, being one of those kind of historically cheap franchises, they might make that business decision. And if they do, or if it does appear to be heading in that direction, the Sixers might get out ahead of it and see if they can at least get some assets in return that they could eventually turn into Myles Turner's replacement if they don't trade for Myles Turner's replacement as it is. One scenario that could play out here is Rui Hachimura and like Jalen Hood-Schifino's expiring, going to Indiana along with the 2 first rounders for Turner. I'm told that if the Lakers do pursue Turner, or if the Lakers eventually do get to the point where they're willing to include both first rounders, that they could, or that, they would do so under the guise that Turner was getting ready to sign a new contract after this season that the Lakers are comfortable with. Until they reach that point, until they have those conversations, they are going to be reluctant to include both of those first rounders. As it stands right now, I do think that they are open to at least one first for Turner. I think they understand that you have to give up a first for Turner. Part of the reason that I didn't include Turner then was because I thought eventually Chicago would come to their senses and recognize that you're probably not going to get a first for Vucevic. They apparently are adamant that they still want a first for Vooch. I'm even told that Washington is holding out hope that they can get even like a heavily protected first for Jonas Valanciunas and the extra year that he has on his contract. So for the Lakers, from the Lakers standpoint, it's like, well, shit, if I have to like entertain a first rounder for either of those guys, I may as well go out and see if I could take advantage of the situation and offer up first round draft capital for a much better player in Myles Turner. I would, like me personally, I would offer up both of those first for him. Another possible scenario here is a 3-teamer where the Lakers send Rui and JHS and a first to Portland. Portland then sends Time Lord, Robert Williams, and I think all they would need to send is Robert Williams to Indiana, and then the Lakers would also send one of their first to Indiana, and Portland would get like the lesser of the first rounders there for facilitating the trade. I don't hate that outcome there, right? Because you have two wings in Dorian Finney-Smith and Jared Vanderbilt who render Rui a little bit less useful. And then you have Myles Turner, who can play alongside Anthony Davis because of the way he's shooting the ball this year. He's shooting 39% on 3-point attempts on like 5+ attempts per game for Myles Turner this year. That's legitimate, like productive floor spacing that makes it so that you can play him with Anthony Davis. And then Turner also has been really good and really adept at anchoring lineups on his own. And if you bring him in, that allows AD to go to the bench with everything not going to shit as soon as he hits the seat that he chooses down there. So I am personally like, I would hope that the Lakers take this seriously as an option. I don't think AD's injury is such that it should stop them from pursuing this. And if anything, because I don't think AD's injury is all that serious right now. Remember, he was able to like walk to the locker room. He was able to kind of like sneak away to the locker room. He didn't like go down and crumple in a heap on the basketball court when he initially got hurt. So like I actually think going out and getting Turner allows AD a bit of a break too, if he wants to take a couple of games for himself. Rui, again, like I'm not sure where he factors into or figures into this rotation moving forward. And then another aspect of some news that dropped earlier today is the De'Aaron Fox situation where he wants to go to San Antonio. Chris Paul is on a 1-year, $10 million expiring contract. That is less than the $12.9 million that really matters. If a player entered the season making more than $12.9 million and they get bought out, if you're above the first apron, you can't sign that player. Paul makes a little bit less than that. And if the Lakers are able to make an uneven trade, in this case, sending out Jalen Hood-Schifino and Rui Hachimura and bringing in Myles Turner, I wouldn't hate the possibility of signing Chris Paul on a buyout. The Lakers also have an advantage there because they didn't use their mid-level exception coming into the season. So they could actually sign Chris Paul for more money than other teams could potentially offer, depending on how far under the second unit they currently sit and how close to the second unit they want to get. So, um, then you're not relying so heavily on Gabe Vincent, let alone if you do decide to trade Gabe for whatever else it might be. Um, Turner makes a very palatable 19-ish million bucks this year, and we'll see where he arrives next season. I still think his negotiations would start at 30 mil and then probably go up from there. But yeah, I think he's the kind of player I would go all in on. He's not that old. He's perfectly in line with Anthony Davis's timeline here. If it doesn't work out this year, if that two center experiment doesn't pan out, then you could always turn Turner into assets a year or so from now after signing him to hopefully a relatively feasible contract. So we'll see how much noise comes of this in the next couple of days. But I am told that the Lakers have had I was told extensive conversations internally about Turner and about the extent to which they should extend themselves to go out and get him. So I do think we'll probably hear about this over the next, week or so leading up to the trade deadline. All right, let's go ahead and dive on in to the super comments here, which means we get to start with this. My voice is also kind of dry, so salute. We have a good collection of them, so let's go ahead and get started. Ryan Lucas starts us off with an AD extended injury further pressures Rob rather than it being an excuse. The roster's flaws are even more exposed with AD now out. I think it does the opposite. It should. Right? I'm not disagreeing with you, Ryan. I think it should do that. I would hope that Rob looks at the way that the game immediately went to shit as soon as AD walked off of the court tonight against a broken and battered 76ers team. I would hope that Rob looks at that and is like, yeah, probably should have addressed center back in the offseason. I would hope so, but we've also seen this front office over the last few years take every excuse they possibly can get their hands on and run with it when it comes to not improving the roster outright, let alone including first round draft capital to improve that roster. Remember how long it took to move Russell Westbrook and all the excuses that we heard there? Whew, man, this team does not like trading first rounders on the back end of the LeBron and AD era. And if AD's injury gives them even that much of an excuse, I could just see it coming. For the record, I just did a bunch of reporting on the Myles Turner situation. I haven't spoken to anybody yet tonight about what a potential AD injury would do to this. I don't think, based on what we're hearing out of the locker room and kind of the general tone coming out of it, right? I don't think it's that serious of an injury. So hopefully, Ryan, you're right. Hopefully it's enough of a reminder for the front office. All right, we have a lot of work still left to do. I'm going to be skeptical because they have made me very cynical. Kobe White and Myles Turner would be perfect ads. I think I push more for Colin Sexton over Kobe White personally. Sexton is a little bit better defensively. I think if they use, I don't think you can get both Myles Turner and Kobe White because, like I said earlier, it's probably going to take all of your first round draft capital to go out and get Myles Turner, or at least a good big chunk of it, right? Now, Chicago, here's my thing talking about Chicago players and players that like any kind of negotiation with Chicago. Chicago is run by fucking idiots. Like, they are the worst run franchise in the sport because the Knicks figured their stuff out. They have Arturas Karnisovas, who is a terrible GM, and their ownership, whose name I am blanking on, Chicago Bulls owner, Jerry Reinsdorf, who is one of the worst owners in sports. The only reason Jerry Reinsdorf has any relevance or has ever had any relevance ever in his time owning a professional franchise is because he got lucky and Michael Jordan fell to him. And then as soon as Michael Jordan left, they have been all kinds of irrelevance since. They almost killed Luol Deng. He had a staph infection because of the way that their medical team handled that entire situation. The fact that they are now adamant about getting a first rounder for Nikola Vucevic when he has another $20 million left on his contract after the season. They're just a completely unserious organization. Nobody there seems to understand what the hell they're trying to do. And I just have serious doubts when it comes to negotiating with them because, like, you can't speak logically with illogical people. You can't fix stupid. And that's essentially what you're looking at here with the Chicago Bulls. They're just dumb. It's a really dumb franchise. Ask anybody who has paid any attention to them over the last like couple decades. My buddy Ricky is like, and my editor at ClutchPoints, Jay, both those guys, they have the Cash Considerations podcast together. Listen to those guys talk about the Chicago Bulls organization, and you'll know they are way too dumb. And not dumb in like a fun way. They're dumb in like an overly conservative way because Reinsdorf is only interested in selling tickets to mediocrity versus the kind of rebuild that they've needed to go on for years now. And here we stand. So it would be great if Chicago was the kind of dumb where they would just hand you over Kobe White, but they're the kind of dumb where it's like they're going to go down with the ship hoping to like make a play in with a team that should have been broken up 2 years ago. Justin Tyndall writes, 48 points in the second without Embiid and Paul George. They quit yet again. Let's blame Darvin again for that point. 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, maybe another 0, 1. Chance Pelinka trades picks. Bronny is 1 of 16 on the year. Yeah, the Bronny thing, it's late enough in the show. I think I can get away with talking about it now. I don't know what to do with Bronny. I'm not kidding. I don't want to sound like I'm coming off too hard on the kid because he shouldn't be out there. But then also, if he's out there playing meaningful minutes in a game that the Lakers are going to regret losing, then I also have to analyze him as a basketball player. And I'll tell you, he doesn't look like he belongs out there. He looks like a 55th pick. How many 55th picks are you seeing out there in an average game? It was going great recently is the thing that drives me crazy. He's been developing in the G League. He had a great game the other night, scored 29 points, knocked down 5 threes the other night. Let him build on that momentum. Like, let him just stay there in the G League and focus on continuing to grow as a basketball player. Don't put him on the court against one of the 5 best perimeter scorers that the league has to offer and put him on an island out there on national TV. The fuck are you doing? That makes no sense. All it does is give people all the reason that they're looking for to go out and dunk on this kid for merely looking like somebody who shouldn't be in the NBA. It just made no sense. Like he looks lost on offense. He looks overwhelmed on defense. He just very clearly not an NBA player, which we knew. We've known all along he's not an NBA player. The whole thing should have been, all right, you get your photo op, first game of the season, cool. Send him down to the G League and let him focus on developing down there. Don't ever even entertain him coming up and playing with the Lakers in anything other than crazy garbage minutes after he has shown legitimate and sustained improvement in the G League. Like, why tonight? Why? And like JJ said after the game, that like, oh yeah, it's because we looked like we needed a little bit more energy. No, y'all were ahead. Lakers were ahead. They were up by 9 when he got out there. And then it was really quickly a tie game. And it's not just because of him. There was plenty of other stuff going on tonight. So I want to be absolutely clear and as fair as I can possibly be with Bronny. I don't know how to talk about this guy because people are going to jump on every bit of criticism that I offer up on Twitter as if I have it against this kid personally. I do not. I do not. If anything, I feel for the kid because I think he's been put in a really tough situation. And tonight was put in an impossible situation. Nobody can guard Tyrese Maxey, let alone a 55th overall pick who hasn't played in NBA minutes that matter since game 1 of the season, 43 games ago. Like, this is what I talk about when I have my questions about the Lakers organization developing talent. This is not how you develop talent. The way that they've approached this with Bronny has not been about Bronny. And tonight was just killer. He's not the reason that the Lakers lost, and I'm not going to blame him on his own, but he for damn sure didn't help. And tonight for damn sure didn't help in his development. This was just an all-around fuck up from everybody involved. Just an absolute complete farce of a few minutes out there for a kid who is clearly still trying to figure it out and can't because there are too many arms pulling him in too many directions other than, hey man, just focus on getting better as a basketball player. Let's just focus on that. Apparently that's too much to ask for. All right, Matthew writes, as far as Turner goes, the second Toppin extended, I knew Turner would be gettable, can't afford him, can't let him walk for nothing. Could loop in Utah, remove the protection on the 2027 swap. Indy gets Kessler for a young, cheap center. People still, for whatever reason, believe that Kessler is gettable. I have been saying this all year. Mark Stein just confirmed it again the other day. Kessler is not available from Utah. There was a stretch there where, people were kind of wondering if he's on the outs with Utah. I have never thought that. He's on an incredible contract. He's a really good young player, and he's white in Utah. Like, I don't think he's going anywhere anytime soon. So, like, I think if Indy wants to replace Turner on his way out, you're looking at like Time Lord. You're looking at Vucevic if they're open to that. You're looking at I don't know, Pirtle maybe. If they're open to sending draft capital to Toronto for him. But yeah, the situation in India is really difficult. Because I'm like me personally, a basketball fan, I want to see them continue to compete. I wish their fans would see their team invest in their team, and actually pay the luxury tax and actually keep a good, young, fun team together after making the Eastern Conference Finals last year. But it doesn't appear that it's heading in that direction. And if the Lakers could take advantage, then cool. All right. Anthony, it honestly never made sense to me that Kessler was available. I like your Portland 3-team idea. Yeah, the Kessler thing, I think there's a lot of wishing going on around the league that Kessler would be available. The thing with it is like with Markkanen and Kessler, those guys can play side by side. Utah is probably going to Utah is really going to start the shenanigans here in the next few weeks and really try to fall down the standings and give themselves a better chance at Cooper Flag, Maybe if you have Flag and Markkanen and Kessler, then Kessler becomes available. But for right now, like, Kessler and Markkanen fit too well together. And he has played a lot and really well for Utah this year. I think he and the coach are on better terms. It was a really cool moment earlier this year that went kind of viral where Walker Kessler's girlfriend was competing for Miss America, and he and his coach, Will Hardy, were watching it together. And Hardy was clearly very invested in that moment, and in rooting for Kessler and his girlfriend there. Um, so I don't really think Kessler is available in the way that people continue to seem to think. I never thought Kessler was all that available in general, but then I've also done a lot of reporting on why he isn't available specifically to the Lakers. Is because the Lakers owe draft capital to Utah, and Utah doesn't want to trade a good young center to the team that owes them draft capital, because it would then inherently make that draft capital cheaper. So you have all of those factors coming to fruition. And I don't think Kessler is getting moved this year. I could be wrong. It's happened before. But I just don't really see it. And I definitely don't see it as an option for the Lakers, even if they make like a Godfather offer to him, which, maybe they do. But I think if they're going to make a Godfather offer, I think Turner fits the Lakers better than Kessler does, because of the way that he can space the floor alongside AD, and then obviously the way that he could play defense and is proven as a defender on his own. So, yeah, I think that's kind of where I see things going with Kessler and with Turner here in the next week or so. Let's see. Hazim Amirali writes, can anyone beat the Lakers' offer for Turner? Well, OKC can beat anybody's offer for anybody. I just don't like, why would they get in on Turner when they have Chet and Hartenstein? So Hartenstein or Steen, whatever. So I like, they're the team that can beat the Lakers' offer. Realistically speaking, though, like, could, or will Indiana get a better offer than either a couple picks from the Lakers or Robert Williams and a first for a guy who is probably leaving anyway? I don't know if they'll do too much better than that. But look, they've been really stubborn about trading people in the past. And then there was also that one here where they like specifically wouldn't trade Paul George to the Lakers. And then there was a time that they tattled told on the Lakers for tampering to the league. Like, they made an official complaint and all that stuff too. So the Pacers aren't really fans of the Lakers. Remember, the Lakers beat them in the finals for the first year of the three-peat. And you have, that history there. And, the Lakers are kind of seen as the bullies and stuff like that. And in this case, if the Lakers are trying to take advantage of the fact that Indiana can't pay somebody, then they're really going to be seen as the bullies. And Indiana probably won't like that all that much either. So can somebody beat that offer? Yeah. Will somebody beat that offer? I don't necessarily think so. Marley Villasenor, Rui is a made man. I expect him to keep starting. So apparently part of the reason that Rui started in this one was because they're still bringing Dorian along slowly because of his ankle thing that he came over from the Nets with. They're trying to get him to 30 minutes a night, and I don't think JJ wants to start him until he can play 30 minutes a night. He played 19 minutes in this one, albeit in a blowout. He was also in foul trouble in this one. But yeah, JJ also said, I think, that they don't want to have Rui lose a starting gig because he got hurt. I've never understood that, because it's like, if somebody gets hurt and it gives somebody the opportunity to go in there and look better than that player, then you shouldn't have gotten hurt. So, but JJ is a former player. That is probably the worst way to lose your gig. But ask Drew Bledsoe, ask Wally Pipp, ask any number of players over the years. You get hurt and you miss time. That's something that you risk in all of professional sports. And, that's how things might play out, right? Like this happens across industry too, right? You take a vacation at the wrong time and there's a big group project at your work. And then all of a sudden, the person who steps in for you while you're on vacation shows your workplace that they could do what you're doing potentially for even cheaper. And they're like, huh, and they just kind of store that one in the back of the brain there moving forward. Shit happens all the time, man. I told the story about my sophomore year of high school and the lesson that my dad imparted on me because of that. I carry that with me to this day. I don't like to miss very many days of work, even if I sound like shit. I'm still going to try here and try to get through shows here with you guys, because the last thing I want Odyssey to find out is how easy my job is and how easily somebody else could do it, potentially even better. Nope. No, thank you. I'm good. I'm going to keep on working. Matthew, Anthony, how bad did the Kings look? Gave up on Halliburton and now will lose Fox. Kang's going to Kang. Yeah, they also fired Mike Brown in no small part, looks like, to appeal to De'Aaron Fox, who then turned around and was like, nah, still sucks here. I'd rather go play with Wemby. The Kings are just, I feel bad for their fans, honestly, because you look at their seasons, right? The last couple of years, they had that really fun run where they make it to the playoffs. Mike Brown wins Coach of the Year unanimously. Immediately goes from that into like way too hostile contract negotiations the next year. Then they have this season, which they signed DeMar DeRozan, thinking like after having that fun, exciting year last year. So they're like on top of the world. They never get free agents. They're thinking, oh man, this is going to go great. I didn't love the DeMar signing because I think it made a small team even smaller, but they sign him and this season appears to kind of suck. And DeMar and Mike Brown aren't really getting along, and De'Aaron and Mike Brown aren't really getting along, and De'Aaron and his people kind of soft launch this idea of like, you might want to trade me because I'm going to be a free agent and I don't want to sign an extension with you guys. And that turns into now where they are now, basically telling them, nah, you should probably trade us. Apparently, like there's a report from from somebody in San Antonio that De'Aaron Fox's family has already started looking at their living situation in San Antonio, so long as the Spurs are able to find a way to bring Fox in. So we'll keep an eye on that. And then again, I think the Lakers are already keeping an eye on that situation just in case Chris Paul gets traded, arrives in Sacramento, sees that they're going to suck, sees that he's running out of, feasible attempts at winning a championship, and then, asks them to buy him out. The Lakers might get involved there. I also thought earlier today, before all the Turner stuff, before I started writing about the Turner stuff, that the Lakers should maybe get involved and try to facilitate a Fox to Spurs trade. Maybe see if you can sneak Harrison Barnes out of there, and a draft pick for doing so, because Sacramento can't trade for Harrison Barnes because they were the last team to trade him. So yeah, I feel bad for the Kings. It really sucks. Like, and it all again goes to ownership. Vivek seems to really suck at this. He trusts the wrong people and just cannot get out of his own way. It seems kind of I think he put his daughter as one of the coaches in the G League too, right? Seems like little too hands-on for somebody who hasn't been around basketball for very long, and I think that continues to bite them in the ass. But
If the Lakers could take advantage and get somebody like Chris Paul for nothing in terms of trade capital as a result of the Kings kinging, then cool. I'm fine with that. All right. I am going to get out of here. Dark Galaxy did ask if I have any interest in Lonzo. I do, but I wish he was making like half as much as he did so it wouldn't cost so much contract going out. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here, record tonight's lowdown as well. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. 1,700 of you guys tuned in after that embarrassing loss. Y'all are the best. Thank you, everybody, for the starred comments and for continuing to support the show, however it is that you're supporting it. Best ways to do so, hit us with those 5-star reviews on iTunes. Hit us with that like button. Hit us with that subscribe button here on YouTube. If you guys are watching on Twitter, head on over to youtube.com/@LakersLounge. Have a fun guest lined up for tomorrow. Jason Timpf and I are going to talk about the Lakers, will they, won't they, over the years when it comes to improving this roster. We'll talk about whether he thinks they should. We'll see if we have an update as it pertains to Anthony Davis's injury situation and all of that good stuff. Plus, as I said earlier, I have that piece dropping about Myles Turner for ClutchPoints. So keep an eye out for that as well. And until the next time you guys hear from me, I'm Anthony Irwin saying, have a great rest of your evening. Make somebody else's, and I will talk to you tomorrow.